please excuse us for being so late this evening. And that said, we are missing, welcome to our council meeting this evening, and thank you all for being here, and thank you for those that are watching online. Are we ready online? We're good, okay. So we appreciate you being here this evening. I will say as we get started, we are missing two councilmen this evening. Darrell, sitting right here.
She thinks I'm missing.
You're not missing. I apologize. Councilman Skog is traveling and not here this evening, and Councilman Rodriguez actually is not feeling well this evening and could not make it. So we do have a quorum with the four that we have here, and thank you all for being here. We will begin. Is Reverend Aaron Berkowitz here?
All right.
Thank you. So Reverend Berkowitz, am I saying your last name correctly, is the pastor at First United Presbyterian Church here in Nampa, and you are going to open us in prayer, and thank you so much, and we will stand.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, creator of the world, call us by your Spirit into the faithfulness you have shown us and have given us in the form of Jesus. The truth, beauty, and goodness we see reflects you, the source of reality. Our world is good because you made it out of your overflowing nature. Even as we rejoice in your grace, so we tremble at the responsibility you give us to be stewards of this world, to be your partner in the expansion of created splendor. I pray that you would give these, our honored leaders, wisdom to govern our community with compassion and justice. Our city is growing in number and prosperity. Let our mercy and wisdom keep pace with that growth. Make our freedom be also generosity. Make our prosperity be also unity, so that we reflect the self-offering that makes Father, Son, and Holy Spirit one. Because every servant shares in the form of your word, bless this council with the joy of serving. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. And let's all say the pledge together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Reverend Berkowitz. We appreciate you praying tonight. Okay, roll call.
Bruner?
Here.
Hogaboom?
Here.
Levi?
Present.
Haverfield?
Here.
Okay, proposed amendments to the agenda. We have two that I am aware of. We will be removing item number 1.5 on the agenda, and that is authorizing the public comment period. For June 14th, we have postponed that. I believe we can, I don't see Robin here, but I believe we need to postpone that from that date because of the 10th meeting. Would that be correct? I think we do.
It sounds like that comment period was contingent upon a decision in the special.
On our meeting and how
So,
far we
yeah,
push
we
it
do,
back, so.
yes.
Okay, and then we also are moving item 510 on the agenda, and this is authorizing the Mayor and Public Works Director to execute any necessary documents pertaining to ITD right-of-way acquisition of the City of Nampa Cemetery property. So there are those two changes to our current agenda. Are there any other suggested changes or needed changes? Okay, hearing none, I would stand for a motion to approve our consent agenda as stated.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Bruner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Hogaboom?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Tonight, we do not have any proclamations, so we'll speed right past that. Are the Boy Scouts of America, is Mr. Lynn Gunter here? Hi. Well, welcome, and come on up. I believe you have a presentation for us this evening.
Thank you, Mayor Kling. Especially appreciate the invitation. We're thrilled to be here. I'm the new CEO, Scout Executive of the Oroida Council, which covers about 31,000 miles in southwest Idaho and 2 counties in Oregon. We currently serve about 13,000 youth in our communities. We're thrilled to be here. We still have a huge footprint, and I'd just like to ask the quick question. Would any of you be willing to raise your hand if you personally or you have children in the scouting program?
Have or did?
Have or did, yes, yes. Thank you so much. We've really enjoyed the program, and it's made such a substantial impact. One of the things that we do have going for us, though, right now is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has announced it's no longer going to be partners with the Boy Scouts of America due to an expansion of a worldwide program. They have thanked us profusely. We've enjoyed that partnership, and we recognize that as we lose that partnership with this particular faith in this area, that it is going to impact some of our membership. One of the challenges that we have in this area, as well as in the council, is we need a place for some of these and many of these youth to still continue at the church's desire. And so I have a handout in the back that talks about the importance of strengthening youth through the scouting program. And so if any of you are aware of faith-based institutions, churches, civic-based institutions, as well as education-based institutions that would like to partner with us, I also have my card in the back that they can reach out. Now, why is this so important? It was interesting. There was a Dr. Marvin Watson who conducted a study back in 1940 about the top offenses in public schools. At that time, it was running in halls, chewing gum, improper clothes, making noise, not using the wastebasket, and out of turn in line. Well, times have changed as we witness so many circumstances. In a recent study, the top offenses in public schools: rape, robbery, assault, personal theft, burglary, and drug abuse. We are thrilled to be able to have a character-based program. We recognize not every kid's going to be an athlete, not every kid is going to be a straight A student, not every kid is going to even have positive influences at home. But we recognize with the Boy Scouts of America, every kid has an opportunity to have a home run. And as a character-based organization, it's amazing what can happen. We create a laboratory whenever we can give a kid a rope, a knife, or a match. But with that laboratory, we can instill in them values found in the Scout Oath and Scout Law. Things such as trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Last week I was at a meeting, at our national meeting, where the Honorable Rex W. Tillerson spoke about his commitment and duty to God and country and self. In October, in the Metro Center, we will be hosting an event recognizing one of our great leaders in the Boise Metroplex, where we have a guest keynote speaker of Dr. Robert Gates, former Secretary of Defense. Someone once wrote, "Nobody knows what a boy or girl is worth. We'll just have to wait and see, but every man or woman in a noble place, a boy or girl once used to be." That's my commitment to you as the CEO and Scout Executive in the Ore-Ida Council. I stand ready to serve. There's my card. It has my cell phone number, my email address. You can feel comfortable in calling me daytime or nighttime, weekday or weekend. This is what I do. And if we can be aware of partnerships, where we can create opportunities to have that laboratory in the life of a youth, we stand ready to serve. It's a thrill to be here. Again, thank you. And just give me a call or an email, and there's a handout about our impact, and feel free to grab that on your way out. Any questions?
I would just like to say thank you so much for making a difference in our community and making a difference in kids' lives, and that character, all that, that's what we've been talking about as employees in the city of Nampa, right? So how much easier if we grow up with that character than to walk it out in the workplace. So good for you.
Someone once said it's far easier to bring a kid in a positive environment than mend an adult. And so we're thankful for you.
Mayor always knows I come up with strange questions, but it's just today's world. And so what is the Boy Scouts doing? My son had an Eagle Scout years and years ago, of course. But what's the Boy Scouts doing regarding gender identity?
Gender identity, well, that is a very personal decision in what they're doing. I think you may be also referring in us allowing the girls into the Scouts. We identify that there are specific programs for gender identity. So we have included the girls into the program, but they will be in separate programs based on what their declared gender is. As they get a little bit older into teenage years, there's a joint co-ed program, but they are to maintain separate identity. The best reason and the greatest reason that we have separate programs but under the same roof is in response to the needs of the family. When a mom who is very busy with kids going different directions, it's nice to be able to have a one-stop shop. We have many partnerships who have included gender separate programs, but under the same roof with that
Yeah.
partnership.
I'll talk to you further. I was going to go a little further than that, but we'll talk another time.
Please
Thanks.
do. Thank you.
Mayor Kling, Mr. Gunther, Scout Group Troop 112, is it still active at Napa First Church?
Yes,
Okay.
I can answer that.
I've only been here a few.
Yeah, I go to that church, and they've been active. That's where my son received his Eagle, was through Troop 112.
And my two boys were involved in the program there. But earlier in the evening, we were talking about Boys and Girls Club. Is there any link between Boy Scouts and the potential with the Boys and Girls Club?
We have a lot of potential in this council. There's a great link nationally, but we have not been heavily involved in this council with that link. We're looking at other joint partnerships as well. YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, even the juvenile justice system, where I've been involved in creating partnerships with the court system, and even with those kids who have been who are going to be living long-term in the judicial system.
So is your office in Boise on?
Yes,
okay.
8901 West Franklin.
Okay, so trying to team up with the entities that are here in Nampa, who would that be you as well?
That would be me, and my card's just sitting right back there on the desk on both sides.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, this is the section in the agenda where anyone wishing to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item has 3 minutes to do so. So we had a little error because we had a special council meeting prior to this one, and before I call names, I just want to make sure, we had an Amber Young with Salvation Army, but that was prior, I'm sure. Stephanie Day, Catch prior, Kim Dugan was prior, Melissa Gentry, Crystal, and Linda Clark. None of them are here, right, intending to speak here. I just want to make sure I don't, okay. So then we get down to, we have 2 people signed up to speak tonight on an agenda, and the first one is Rosemary Nelson. So Rosemary, as you come forward, you will have 3 minutes and to speak. And as you come, please tell us your name, your address, and what you're here to speak about.
Hello. All right, good morning. My name is Rosemary Nelson. I live at 11911 West Pateo Road in Napa.
Good.
Do I start? Good evening, Mayor. The reason I'm here is for these, I understand that tonight there's going to be a memorandum for the storage facility, and I'm here as, I guess, as a citizen and as business owner to please consider this and have in place right away. The reason is because my family and we own Carteret Moving and Storage. Carteret Moving and Storage was previously known as Carteret Ranch. I believe the storage facility has been in Napa for over 45 years. The reason why we're here is because obviously we bought this facility. We bought it like two and a half years ago, and we have seen the growth of storage facility just increasing, and it has been kind of affecting our facility. We're actually located on Sandens, and what we have seen that there's a brand new facility that's only like half a block away from us that has been built. Well, over the last year and a half, we have seen numerous of storage facility that has multiplied. We're located on Carteret and Sundance, and a brand new facility, Safeguard Storage of Carteret, on Carteret and Milton has been built, and this is just half a block away. There's also another storage facility, Platinum Storage Facility, that's being built on Carteret and on the freeway. Again, it's within our perimeter. Right next to our property line, there is the mobile home, and last year the council approved of apartment buildings. About a week and a half ago, we heard that they were going to be building a storage facility right on a property line, which means there's going to be 4 storage facility engulfing us. We're just a small family-owned company. There were only 153 units, and this is just going to be put in a big financial well, not just financial, but just it's just going to be hard for us. I spoke to small companies, to small storage facilities, and they are feeling these other facilities being built. They've told me that their vacancy has decreased. I've also spoke to the big other companies too, and they have also recalled, said that the market has been all engulfed. Council member, I'm not as public speaker, but I beg you, please put this in store, because we are, unfortunately, the way that this has been sown, there is a possibility that a storage facility will be built right next to us. I just need your help. I just need time for you to just hold and see what's been going on in our city. I'm not opposing of competition. I'm not here. I know that there is everything, but just please, just I know my time is up, but just please, just consider this. And I don't know what else to say. Hopefully my family will carry on, but anyways.
Thank you.
Sorry, guys.
Thank you. So we had one other person signed up, and that was Mitch Page. But Mitch is actually on sick. Mitch, are you here? I am right here. Okay, so you signed up on this sheet, but you're here for a public hearing, correct? So we will switch your name over to the public hearing sheet so you can testify during the public hearing time. Thank you. So is there anyone else here this evening that did not get signed up that had intended to speak for 3 minutes during this time to address the council? Okay. So seeing none, we will move on to the next, and we'll save that one. Okay, mayor and council comments. So tonight, I am so excited to announce our new director of IT. I forgot at the last council meeting, and so with the sincerest apologies, I have asked our new director of IT, Butch, is it Shireman? Thank you. I thought, would you like to come up? And I'd love for the council to meet you and you to share briefly with the council a little bit about yourself, where you came from, and we're glad to have you here.
Yes, well, I'm excited to be here. Most of the council probably knows me through my wife. She's a music teacher at Nampa Christian. I have been with Micron Technology for the last 24 years. They tell me that one of the greatest stresses in life is to change jobs. I felt that a little bit, but it was quickly remedied when I came here and I met the staff and all of you, and I've seen you at work now in the short time that I've been here, and I'm very impressed, and I'm looking very forward to the opportunity to take us to the next level. So.
And council, do you have any questions?
Thought you looked familiar.
Shiremans have been around for
A little while.
Thanks.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. So we do not have any agency or commission reports this evening. We do have a staff report, and I believe that Daniel, are you presenting our staff report for Tom tonight?
I am.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Tom's back is causing him problems, and so he won't be here today. So staff report items, we have a couple of transportation-related items. ITD is working on the design of their Phase 2 of the I-84 widening. They're working on the design of the Middleton and the Eustic overpasses over the freeway. Their plans at this point are to construct a 2-lane facility on Middleton Road with bike lanes and pedestrian facilities. What they've looked at, that takes them out to their design year of 2045. For that, you may see on Eustic, they are looking at doing a wider section with some participation from the city of Caldwell. To do the ultimate build out, which would ultimately be a 4-lane facility, bike lanes and pedestrian facilities on each side, it would be an increase of between $4 and $6 million to make that change. At this point, our transportation master plan does not identify widening of that Middleton corridor in the current plan. And so at this point, we don't feel that it's something that the city would be within what we should be doing to fund widening of that bridge at this point. It would be something that would come forward in the future.
Mayor? Yes.
Thank you. Daniel, I was just curious as I was reading through the report and it showed the different designs and then it had the red corrections, et cetera.
Yep.
And I was interested and it said according to city standards as shown below. So our standards and ITD standards are not the same. Could you kind of clarify that for me, please?
So the city standards, we have certain lane widths and road widths that we have standard for our roads. The state's standards are geared more towards the interstate and the state highway system rather than a local road network that the city has.
Thank you.
So in addition to the state working on that, you may have seen in the news that the state and the city of Caldwell have been working on an agreement to abandon, well, not abandon, but to transfer responsibility for the Caldwell Boulevard I-84 business loop through Caldwell to the city from the state. So that would take it from up here at Simplot all the way down to Homedale Road, that would go back to the city's control rather than the state's. ITD has approached us about potentially doing something similar. The piece that they would like to look at would be between Homedale Road and the Karcher Caldwell Boulevard interchange. That gives them a termination point on I-84B at Highway 55. We have been in discussions with them about potentially trading that portion of the boulevard for them taking over this portion of North Side between the interstate and Caldwell Boulevard there. There is the overpass over the railroad tracks as well as a bridge over Indian Creek there that are currently the city's responsibility if there are issues with. And so we are in discussions with them about the potential of that transfer. We think that's probably in the city's best interest. And so we will be continuing negotiations on that and when we have an agreement, would be bringing that before council and would just request any comments you may have about continuing that process.
Perfect.
Okay. The last thing is our projects update for this quarter. We're a little bit late on our, we're about mid-third quarter rather than second quarter. So we have our 25 major projects, $19 million that we're doing this year. You can see the various locations all over the place. Street department is just starting the chip seal areas, and so that's underway right now. Greenhurst Road, a portion of that has been completed west or east of 12th Avenue, and we will be closing on Monday the portion west of in front of South to continue that project. So for this fiscal year, we are currently at, for the current, we're at 68% of our projects designs are completed, 50% are awarded, and 24% have been constructed. This time last year, we were a bit ahead of that with where we were at. We had some staffing issues. We have a couple of open positions, 4 open positions that we are working on filling and have been unable to get qualified applicants as of yet. We're still working through that process, and so that's why we're a little behind. We have been undergoing some task orders that you approved on the consent agenda to help us catch back up in that. For our project savings for this year with in-house design stuff, we are sitting at just under or just over $400,000. Some of that is from in-house design and inspection for the Greenhurst project and various other projects. Some of that savings is in the fact that we have not been able to fill those staff positions as of yet. So that's where we're at to date, and would stand for any questions.
And I don't think we have any. Great job, and thank you so much, Daniel.
Not a
I
problem.
appreciate it. Okay, so we're ready to move into new business items. Item number 5.1 on the agenda is an action item, and Patrick, I think you're on for this one. This is to award a bid and authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Concerco, Inc. for the Phase 2 concrete repair and waterproofing project for the Hugh Nichols Public Safety Building for an amount not to exceed $175,487. And just a clarification that this is already approved in the FY19 budget, is that correct?
Mayor and council, correct.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes, this is the first phase of fixing some spalling concrete and putting a 3-coat traffic coding system on the Hugh Nichols Public Safety exposed parking deck. And this is going to be probably about 20 to 25% of that deck surface. We do have another project in our FY20 capital request that will hopefully finish the rest of it. This project needs to move forward because we want to keep water from infiltrating into the slab that's starting to fail on the surface, so we can keep the water out of the zone of the structural steel. So basically, we have reduced the scope down from our budget amount, so we have enough, we can actually award a bid in the amount of $175,487 with enough contingency left over that if we wanted to add on as a unit price some additional area before the project's done, we could.
Okay. Are there any questions?
So Mayor, yeah, question. I realize this has to be taken care of. I understand that. So we had challenges also with the public parking garage, the top. Is this anything similar to that, or as far as the same type of challenges with the?
Mayor and Councilman Brunner,
Yeah.
the failure of the surface of the concrete at the Hugh Nichols Public Safety Building is much worse in areas. It's a much deeper spalling. It's a combination of weather, possibly placement of the concrete, and the use of ice melting salts over the years. So it's actually a worse condition. There's a lot.
But some similar challenges that we had somewhat with especially with the ice melt and so on. That we've changed our procedure then.
We have changed our procedure. We now rubber blade them, and we're using a magnesium based only where necessary. And once we get the traffic coating on there, we'll be able to use
Thanks, Pat.
an easier salt on.
Councilman Haverfield?
Follow up on what Councilman Brunner was asking. Obviously, we had the same conditions on the new public parking structure. But I assume that we're beyond the warranty period, that we're not able to get any participation as far as out of the original contractor. Or has there been forensic research on the Hugh Nichols building like we had on the parking structure to determine cause?
Mayor and Councilman Haverfield, we determined that we were too far along to go back.
Okay.
When we went through the forensics on the downtown parking structure and we're looking in to a potential legal claim against the original contractor, it was decided that the legal fees would be, and the cost for the consulting which wouldn't warrant it. And we're in that same situation here.
Well, and then again, on the parking structure next to the library, we determined that minimizing the use of that upper deck level would be in the long-term interest of that surface that has now been applied up there. Are you going to limit the access on the Hugh Nichols upper deck?
Mayor and Councilman Haverfield, I don't believe we can minimize the use of that deck as we have in the library, just because of the growth of police and what they use it for.
The amount
they use it. So I don't believe we can close that off and be able to serve their needs.
So the cost associated with this remedy, what kind of a lifespan are we looking at where we have to reapply?
On this type of system, it's very similar to the downtown system. I believe it's the first warranty is for 4 years, and then you're able to extend that warranty at year 4 by putting an additional coat on, and then it's probably a cycle where you have to abrade and put an additional coat maybe every 3 to 5 years, and maybe at year 15 you take it down a little bit further, assess, maybe reprime, and then you put on additional coats at that point.
Okay, so we'll be looking at additional costs as we go forward, no matter what, obviously. We have an issue, obviously, that needs to be corrected, but we have an ongoing costs associated with the upgrades and the warranty not covering it past that limited time frame. So it's not like, well, anyway, I won't get into it. We can't really limit the amount of traffic up there like we can on the parking garage, but we're doing the best we can.
Right, Mayor and Councilman Harrowfield, yes,
All
that's
right.
correct.
Thank you, Patrick.
Madam Mayor, I'll make the motion if it's okay. Authorize you to sign contract with Concerco Inc. for the HNPSB Phase 2 concrete repair and waterproofing project not to exceed the contract amount of $175,000 and $175,487.
Second.
Question. Patrick, while you're still standing there, I see Repair Crete had a lower bid, and they had acknowledged both addendums and the bid bond. Was there a reason why their number wasn't considered, or maybe I missed that in your presentation?
Mayor and Councilman Harrowfield, at the tail end of the packet, we determined after we have taken bids that the low bidder did not have a current public works license, and we could not waive that requirement.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't see that in your report, so.
I had seen that. I have a quick question on that. Is there a way to notify other cities with Repair Crete? Because, there's time dedicated from Aaron had to send out a letter, and there's all this city time spent on reviewing. I get that there's a normal review process, but is there a mechanism for reporting entities like them that don't hold a license that bid on this project?
Mayor and Councilman Hogaboom, I think that it doesn't happen very often, and this contractor will likely learn from this error, and they'll go get their public works license if they want to do work in the state.
Okay, good.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any additional discussion? Roll call.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Hogaboom?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
The next item on our agenda is a resolution to amend our fiscal year 19 budget, and Doug Racine is going to present that for us. While Doug is making his way down, just for council to know, I have excused him following this presentation. He had shoulder surgery on Friday and has put in a very, very long day today, so I think we'll be okay if he leaves, and so I've encouraged him that he could depart at the conclusion of his presentation.
Yeah, he's a tough guy. He's in pain, so.
Yeah. And he was there for the 8 a.m. director meeting this morning.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Mayor, city councilors, I've come tonight to, first of all, thank you for allowing me to take a moment of your time to share the 2019 budget amendment for the city of Nampa. Most of you should have received the detailed budget memo last Friday with the specific information. I have up on the screen a summarized version of that, but I am prepared to bring up that memo or talk in detail related to any of these particular budget amendments requests. As you're aware, the budget amendment process allows the city of Nampa to spend, the budget is your legal authority to spend. This amendment process allows us to remain legal if we find where there are areas where the spend exceeds our current budget threshold. Tonight, we've got several different areas of budget amendments. In the general fund, let me first start by giving a little background on the general fund. We have accumulated a reserve. Sorry, it's a little hard to work with one hand. Just 1 second to get my right sheet here. Okay. At the close of fiscal 2018, we had accumulated a reserve in the general fund of $13.2 million. The amendment today calls for a general fund impact of $3.2 million, which will result in $9.9 million, almost $10 million of remaining general fund unassigned balance. It's worth noting that in that general fund $9 million balance is a $2 million value assigned for the purpose of paying out accrued personal leave the city's been accumulating over time. The general fund is most significantly impacted today by the purchase of the First Interstate Bank building. The amendment of $3,061,000 includes the purchase of the building, operating expenses for the remainder of the year, as well as repairs for HVAC and roofing in this current budget process. Also included in the general fund are $125,000 for repairs due to water damage due to the public safety building. There are other adjustments of $74,000, including audit fee adjustment, a rollover of funds to pay for the policies and procedures update that Norm is working on, as well as some expenses for council travel. And finally, in the general fund, there is a lease proceeds from the purchase of the fire trucks. And it's very important to notice here that this purchase is not a cash outlay. This is the lease purchase of funds, where our only cash outlay this year was $18,000 in a down payment. But in order to meet accounting requirements, we have to, it's like buying a car. You book the entire value of the car on the purchase, even though you only make a small down payment. But we have to book the value of the future payments that will be paid over time annually, starting in October. So this is not a cash outlay, but it reflects the balance sheet impact to the city for the acquisition of those trucks. On the streets fund, has multiple requests for budget adjustment, including equipment of $80,000, a restroom build of $80,000, various intersection and paving costs of $141,000, infrastructure of $714,000, and the cost for a transportation master plan of $120,000. This is $1.136 million. It's important to note that these funds are coming from existing fund balances and not new tax levies or anything else. This is existing fund balances. The next section has special revenue funds. The rec center is spending $688,000 on boiler, new cardio equipment. This is intended to keep the rec center in a competitive situation with other facilities of the same, offer the same function and amenities. The 911 fund is going to upgrade their emergency communication system for $253,000. And Aura Park upgrade, repair or build is being funded. Most of this Aura Park is a rollover from last year. Well, the work wasn't able to get done, so we rolled it over into the current year. On the capital project funds, there's $772,000 worth of spend, with $672,000 coming from impact fees for various projects. We can go through those if you'd so choose. And also, there's a rollover grant for the Aura Park that is also part of the $139,000. It actually feeds that $139,000 for the park update. And on the bottom, the enterprise funds has $3.6 million of budget amendment requests. Most of these are rollovers from the prior year, projects that were built and planned on but weren't able to be executed in 2018 but are rolled over into 2019, with $773,000 from water and $2,866,000 for sewer funds. And those are the total amendments to date for the current year. This has been an interesting process for me to go through this and see the number of requests made. My hope is that we move forward into future years, we can improve our processes to kind of limit these, eliminate the need for some of these budget amendment requests. And from here, I'll turn it over to the council for questions.
Mayor, I do have a question, and I know it's a small amount, but it deals with us, so I always have questions. Rollover from last fiscal year for city council for $5,870.
Right.
And I may be putting you on the spot.
No, that's not a problem.
What does that consist of?
So when the budget was built last year, it omitted building in travel costs for the council to attend certain conferences. So there are some conferences coming up that I believe you may want to attend, which should have been budgeted for. So we pulled the money out of last year's rollover, where it wasn't spent, and put it into this year so that you could spend it as needed if you chose to go to some of the councils for EIC, the
So
meetings.
we failed, we had a 0 in your budget last year. It was just a total mistake. And so we actually absorbed travel earlier this year to National League of Cities out of the mayor's budget, and then we have AIC coming up. And so it gave council no mileage reimbursement and no opportunity to attend conferences, and so that's with my apologies.
Okay, and fellow council are not going to be happy with me, but that's okay. I mean, I personally do not think we should be having the city taxpayers pay for our conferences, travel, et cetera. We are getting paid. I realize it's a minimal amount, but to me, that's just my personal opinion. It should be coming out of that payment that we are getting from the city and not be charging the city further. So
Now,
anyway,
keep
that's
in
my
mind,
opinion.
Councilman Brunner, in this impact, this is an amendment, not an expenditure. So if we
Right.
chose not to spend the money,
I understand, and so I guess I'm I'm projecting my personal philosophy onto for future reference. Okay,
Sure.
thanks.
very
And-
valid point.
Do you mind if I provide comment?
No, you certainly may. You're the mayor.
I will. So as I haven't traveled a lot, I've gone to one conference, but I think there are a couple conferences that are really important. The Association of Idaho Cities, there's great learning at that conference, and we have the opportunity to actually network with other council members across the state. It's important. This also helps fund any AIC meetings and training that can take place. That's also important. It's especially important, and we hopefully will budget it again, because if we have new council members, that's how they learn the role of their job. It's very important. And then the one thing that I have seen when I've been around other cities is that you have other cities across not only the state of Idaho, but across the United States that have a number of council members actually attending various meetings just to help them engage and learn more. And so I actually support the learning side. I don't think we need to go for the sake of going, but I think it's very important that we have an educated council to help us do our
No,
jobs.
I agree, but I think that's one commitment when a council person decides to run, that they realize that what some of the costs, they need to weigh the cost of doing that, and that's a cost of time and finances.
Okay.
So just my opinion. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
And as the mayor said, I'm going to
Yes.
run home and
Oh, yeah.
take a huge Motrin. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
So if there are no other questions of Doug, and before you actually do walk out the door, this is an action item, and it would be to approve the resolution, which is attached in our packet to this. And so what would the will of the council be?
I support or I'll make the motion to support the information that's been provided to us. It's what I've knew was coming, so.
Okay,
I'll second.
it's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call.
Hogaboom?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Doug, thank you
Councilman.
very much. So the next item on the agenda is actually at 7:05, and it's time for public hearings. So our first public hearing this evening, should we get over here? Bobby, could you bring us our public hearing sheets? Oh, thank you, Darren, for doing that. The first public hearing this evening is item 61 on the agenda, and it's an action item. This is continued from May 20th. This is to consider the project packaging and delivery approach for the Phase 2 upgrades at the Nampa wastewater treatment plant. And thank you very much. So, staff, Nate, would you like to begin this evening?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening. All right. So, Phase 2 project delivery, and we're talking about Phase 2 tonight because Phase 1 is almost complete. A $38 million undertaking by the city. It took us about 7 years. Now we're going to talk about Phase 2, a project that's 5 times the value, and it's going to take us 7 years. So 5 times the work in the same amount of time. So we thought it was a good idea to look at maybe how we're going to deliver and contract this work. So, as we run through this tonight, a big hand in the Phase 2 project, Council set up a design review committee made up of industrial representatives, Admiral Beverage, the Amalgamated Sugar Company, and Go-Go Squeeze Matern North America. They've been intimately involved. Also, we've had another industry join recently just as a participant, HB Specialty Foods. James Hall has been a great contributor. He started out with Amalgamated, but has remained interested in his industrial customer in Nampa as well. We also have two citizens along with these industrial reps. We have Carol Kenfield, I think she's here tonight, and Larry Olmsted, which I'm not sure if Larry was able to make it. He hopefully is doing well, doing better, hopefully.
Yeah.
So great contributions over the last 10 months. And also, City Council should know that, two of your own members, Darrell Bruner and Randy Haverfield, have been great leaders on that committee with the citizens and industries. So thanks to them. They've done a great job and helping to fulfill the purpose of that committee, to identify cost savings and cost efficiencies. So, the outline, we're just going to go through, what are the findings and what are the recommendations for delivery of Phase 2. But first thing we did is we had to identify the priorities for the city and align those priorities with the delivery of the project. So we used five priorities. One, clearly define the scope is number one. Establishing accountability for performance. 3, retaining control, owner control and decision making. Getting the best value, getting the best price. So to establish the importance, the priority of these, the Design Review Committee went through a survey and will reveal the outcome. Number 1, best value. Number 2, clearly defining scope and configuration, the owner's control. Establishing accountability for performance. Retaining control by the owner. And getting the best price. So with these, that is what we found out with the complexity of the projects. The lowest price is important, but there's a long-term ownership to this project. $189 million investment. There's a lot of ownership costs that come with that. And the committee constantly reminded that, price really should be kind of on the outside. Price is always important, the most important thing when you're considering ratepayers. So those priorities, what do they mean? We worked with the committee to align them with project delivery feature. So what is best value? It's really about engineering, value engineering, opportunity for innovation, defining the scope that relates to the owner's control, being involved in defining the scope of work before you turn it over to a contractor. Establishing accountability for performance. It's mostly about risk allocation, who holds that risk, and then decision making on the owner's part. City input. When does it start? When does it stop? And then getting the best price relates to the lowest capital price today, like a low bid project. So first thing we did was we dove into the project packaging. And with a project of this size that touches all of the existing plant and adds new features, we had about 11 different project packages that we saw. And so we developed a criteria, which is really all about minimizing construction conflicts and minimizing construction coordination. The contract is going to be complex and it's going to need coordination with existing operations. You're building a new plant on top of an existing plant that's in operation. So of those 11 or so projects, we were able to group them into 5 unique packages. These packages ranged in value from $3 million for the lab and admin building renovation, up to the bulk of the work for new aeration basin, new blower building, tertiary treatment, disinfection through ultraviolet disinfection, additional final clarifier. That would be the largest project for just over, estimated at $126 million. And what does that look like? The packaging focused a lot on the site. What does that look like? Where do these contracts touch each other? And you can see by the color coding on there, we have group, we have the first project, Group D, which is another primary digester number 5 and a waste flare gas. We also have the admin building, which was originally planned out here, but through the committee's work and evaluating the existing facilities, we've decided it can be migrated into the current building in a renovation project for cost savings. And then the big project, Group F, is the green that pretty much covers everything. And then kind of the dark purple in the middle, that's going to be the headworks and existing primary clarifier modifications. And then the 5th project is for phosphorus nutrient side stream treatment. So how do you deliver these projects? Well, there were 4 options evaluated by the committee. There's the design bid build, which is what we're most comfortable with. Traditionally, the city's used on smaller scale projects in your, under $10 million, $5 million range. We've done those before. The second option was the construction manager general contractor. This was an alternative delivery method where you bring the contractor in early on, but you still have a separate contract with your design engineer and a separate contract with your construction manager, general contractor. And then the third method, or method 3 and 4, is a type of design build where you would hire a team, one contract with a design construction team. The design build had 2 variations. There was one which was a fixed fee, where you would initially you would sign a contract once and you would let that design build team go to work. The other variation of design build was a progressive design build, where you would be allowed to select on qualifications, plus ask for an initial price from that contractor, then go back, work with the team, develop costs over the project, and come back to council as those costs were developed. So I'll kind of go into detail on the 3 primary options. The fixed design build was really not favored by staff or the design review committee because of the lack of coordination and project development between the owner and the team. So the design build, really what to focus on and what the committee focused on were the risks, how the risks were shared. And under a traditional design bid build, the project design basically risk is borne by the owner or the city. The project performance is borne by the city, and the cost of construction project beyond a low bid or a GMP, that's a guaranteed maximum price under the alternative delivery, would be borne by the city. Under the construction manager general contractor, you'll see that the project design and project performance, those risks still live with the city. The potential costs live with the city, But on the cost of the construction beyond a GMP, that is borne by the contractor. There's also an allowance that there could be cost sharing of where any savings below the GMP would go back to the city. On the progressive design build, this is where you see the difference between the construction manager, general contractor, where all of the three risks that we identified can be majority of the risk can be transferred to that design build team. And the reason is because now you have the designer and the contractor operating under one contract. So they negotiate their own contract, and then the city has a separate contract that holds that team to the performance of the project. So one thing we got into with the alternative delivery is you're not opening a bid on bid award day like you would in a public setting under the traditional package. But as what you do get with the alternative deliveries under the CMGC and the progressive design build is you have an open book practice. So let me explain that. First, you sign on your contractor and bring him in early on the CMGC, and you would hire him for a pre-construction fee. Once that project is developed, then there would be pre-selected subcontractors that work will be bid out to. All those numbers are brought back, opened and transparent. And then both the owner and the contractor would work through, negotiate the price, then come back to City Council to sign a contract to start that portion of the work. And it could be, imagine there could be multiple contracts that come back to council, as opposed to the low bid or the design bid build where it would be one initial lowest bid award. So for example, say we get into we're in the design, we're going to design our filters. So we go through, we have our filtration equipment, the concrete work, the materials that go along with it. Those costs are bid out to the selected contractors, subcontractors, that is brought back to the team and discussed and reviewed and opened between the owner and the contractor. There's also a fee that the contractor puts on top of that work. Once the guaranteed maximum price is agreed to, and then there would be a recommendation made back to City Council. So the open book, principles, the transparency, the validation between the owner and the contractor, competitive bidding amongst the sub-consultants, and then there's also the incentive that cost sharing. You can build into this contract where costs can be incentivized for the contractor to share with them, or the owner could take all of it. So that's the pricing side. Now, how do you pick the team? On the design bid build, you would do your request for qualifications, you'd pick your engineer, and then you'd low bid to the contractor. On these alternative deliveries, you would, under the CMGC, you would still pick your engineer, and you'd separately pick your qualified contractor. The biggest variation on the progressive design build is those two parties would come together as a team to meet the same qualifications and expectations that the city would put forward so that the team can deliver the project. Under the progressive design build, you would be able to ask for an initial guaranteed maximum price. You wouldn't necessarily, under the progressive model, sign that contract on day one, but there can be a price component to that selection. And the blended version is kind of what this progressive idea. So what is who's doing this? So we looked out into the market, and national trends show this CMGC, or the Construction Management General Contractor and Design Build. They're fairly new to the industry, really seen more usage in the last decade or so. this Design Build Institute, Water Design Council, we found this information. Stated that in 2013, 8% of the market was used in alternative delivery. In 4 years, in 2017, they estimated the market at 13%. So of projects being done under this at 13%. And of those projects, more than 60% are choosing the progressive design build. We also discussed with the committee, and staff has reached out, and actually market interest locally has reached in to us. We have about 7 contractors and 6 engineers that have expressed interest in these progressive design build or the CMGC delivery. Staff also reached out to owners. I attended the Design Build conference back in April and had some discussions with owners back there, and they spoke highly of both the construction and general contractor method and the progressive design build. They said it was most important that leadership understands the process and is ready to do an alternative delivery. And then we also spoke with Idaho Transportation Department. They use both the progressive design build and the CMGC. We talked to the city of Boise. They are in a project right now in favor of the construction management general contractor model. They like to have a lot of owner control and retain that control. And then City of Sandpoint, spoke with them. They're actually in preliminary concept design of a wastewater plant, and they were interested. They're trying to move towards progressive design build. So at the end, the recommendation from the Design Review Committee, they had a unanimous agreement to move forward with 5 projects. Group D being the primary digester number 5, waste gas flare, under a traditional design bid build. They also picked project group E, the renovated laboratory under traditional design bid build. And then group F, the larger project, more complex, requiring more coordination, also the most risk on the city's half. They identified the progressive design build as the preferred method. And then the last 2 projects, group G, the primary clarifier and the headworks facility, and group H, the side stream treatment, were recommended to move forward with a traditional design bid build. So with that, I stand for any questions.
Councilman Haverfield.
Mayor Kling, co-counsel. I probably caused an extra morning meeting for the Design Review Committee simply because I wasn't seeing the logic behind a progressive design build approach for a portion of the project, simply because of the fact that a design build approach puts the designer, the contractor's selected, the designer works for the contractor, not directly for the owner like he does in a CMGC approach. I have been involved with projects, major projects in the $10 to $25 million range, where a CMGC with a guaranteed maximum price is the preferred method, because you get the value engineering aspect for with the general contractor, and you also get the bid aspect of getting the lower numbers. But at the end of the day, that's a static building, and it's not a dynamic, fluid entity like this is. So fortunately, the meeting that we had, Mark Hilty was sitting next to me, so I was able to bounce questions off of him from a liability standpoint. You didn't mention, but the lack of staffing with the city is something that we just don't have the staff capable of managing a major project or multiple projects. But we're only talking about project group F. We still get the the aspects of the traditional method in the other 4 sections, which I think is very valuable. And I was reluctant at first, but then with the shedding of the liability, the ability to work on multiple projects at once, to be able to still hit the guaranteed max that the progressive design build allows, I was one of those that voted in favor of that progressive design method in Project Group F, knowing that we'd still have the traditional methods in the other sections. So that's for what it's worth for you.
Thank you for sharing that. Is there any other?
I just mainly, and Councilman Haverfield did cause another meeting, but it was well worthwhile. And I'm just not to butter up to him. But anyway, I just wanted to just commend, Carol is here, Larry Olmsted, Dr. Olmsted's not here, but all the industry folks have a representation here. But 7 o'clock, and that was my fault. He took blame for that. I took fault for the 7 a.m. meetings. But anyway, so people really put their heads together and appreciate you, Nate, and your folks and all the work. And Matt, thanks. So it was the process was very educational for me, and I thought it was well done. So appreciate it very much.
And that said, I don't think you guys are done yet.
Probably not.
You're not, yes. I think this was a long-term commitment as we go through, so I want to say how much I appreciate the commitment of this team to meet. You've accomplished what my hope and intent was, and it's been wonderful to have council, citizens, and industry all together, because the intent of this is that we are good stewards, we make wise decisions. And so thank you for the time that you have spent going through this process. It's appreciated, and it's not over yet. So are there any questions for Nate? We do have an action, well, actually, this is a public hearing.
Hearing, yeah.
I almost forgot the public hearing side. So Nate served both as our applicant and staff report, and it is time for the public hearing, and we have two people signed up this evening. The first person we have signed up in support of this is Carol Kenfield. And Carol, as you come forward, you have 3 minutes, and we'll let you state your name and your address.
Carol Kenfield, 200 South Lancaster Drive in Nampa, and I am strongly in support of this proposal as it's being presented to the council. A little bit of background, I've only been in the city a little over 4 years, so I approached this without any history and without a personal agenda. I worked for years as an environmental engineer. I was involved with residential wastewater, industrial wastewater, and municipal wastewater. And I felt that I could contribute a little bit because of that experience to both the Napa Wastewater Advisory Group and now to the Wastewater Design Review Committee. And so I am grateful for the opportunity that I've had to be part of this. And I'm especially grateful for the group as it is organized right now, because I feel like we have really accomplished what needs to be accomplished with the best interest of Napa and its community at heart. And I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Carol, thank you. Thank you for your contribution. You've been a wonderful asset. Thank you very much. I do want to say for Carol and for Larry Olmsted, it's difficult to find individuals that represent our community that can understand this. It's very complex. So not just anyone can sit and really understand and contribute to a good decision-making process. And Carol and Larry have been amazing. I just want to say thank you for your commitment. You've been a huge asset to us, and we appreciate it. Thank you. The other person that we have signed up this evening is James Hall. And James, thank you for also sharing who you're with and your address.
My name is James Hall. My address is 17299 North Cody Avenue here in Napa. I apologize, Nate and I didn't compare notes, so I'm going to review a little bit of what he went over. But I'm a 10-year Napa resident, 44 years here in the Valley, and employed in the manufacturing sector here in Napa. I've been on the design review committee since the inception about 9 or 10 months ago. I was originally with Admiral Beverage, the Pepsi facility, and have moved on to Hydroblend HB Specialty Foods, and was fortunate that I was able to stay on the committee, and appreciative also. A good portion of my role at Admiral Beverage was production process. Obviously, making soft drinks and bottled water requires a large amount of water, which led to a considerable effluent stream to the treatment facility on hand. A good portion of what I did, being mindful of time here, was working with RO, lime coagulation, ultrafiltration, I know water, I know effluent. And so, again, I appreciate my role on the Design Review Committee. So, as you know, and as Nate had said, Mayor Kling and Nate Runyon set up the Design Review Committee. I'm in strong support of the Progressive Design Build. I'll skip a paragraph here and move on. So with the scope and complexity of the project, Brown and Caldwell obviously have been instrumental in making it, relaying it and defining all the moving parts in a truly palatable form. That's been extremely helpful within the process of wading through everything that we've got going here. This has allowed the committee to focus on their project delivery models best suited to deliver the value and required performance to the city, the residents, and industry partners. Through that series, as Nate had gone through, we did a anonymous question and answer session to rank our outputs. And getting the best value, obviously, with the amount of time that this project will take, and obviously the end goal came in first. Clearly defining the scope and configuration, establishing accountability for performance, which ranked very highly, as this is a moving target, so to speak, with the effluent quality that's required. And then, of course, retaining Napa City control on the decision-making process as it flows through. And then getting the best price, which, being at the bottom of the list, sounds bad, but it really isn't. These outputs drove the committee towards two different delivery models, either the CMGC model or the Progressive Design Build. There were advantages to the CMGC, there were disadvantages to the CMGC, and as Nate went over those, I'll digress and move on. So due to the many facets and the complexity of this project, the preferred model, ultimately the unanimous decision for Project Group F is the Progressive Design Build model, which my largest takeaway was for the real-time and continuous opportunities for input by the city as this project is moving along. This will give us the opportunity for cost savings. It will give us the opportunity to move projects up within budget limitations, which then save inflationary dollars. Oh, my time is up. I ran over, I apologize.
That's okay. Do you have a closing comment?
I'll just say that the meeting was impromptu, but it was well worth our time, and that's where we landed.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Just want to say thank you for your participation. Having the skilled industry participants is extremely vital, and thank you.
Thank you.
For your commitment. So this is a public hearing, and we've had two people that were signed up in support of. We didn't have anyone opposing, and that's all that we have signed up. Is there anyone in the audience that had intended to testify on this behalf? Either in support of or in opposition to? Seeing none. Council, do you have any further questions before we close public hearing?
Excuse me, Mayor Kling, I did have one question for Nate. I heard you say, or maybe just in passing, and again, we're all on the same train, seeing things go by quickly, so you need to ask when it happens, otherwise you forget it. I heard you say that the selection process through the Progressive Design Build can be the selection of a contractor and a selection of a design team separate. Did I mishear what you meant there, or is it selection of a design build team entity that's already in place coming in and proposing on the project?
Mayor and Councilor Haverfield. So is what should have been said, I'm not sure what I said, but is what should have been said is under the Progressive Design Build, you're selecting a team.
Okay.
And that team would be preformed and predetermined outside of the city's control.
Okay. And part of my question to Mark that morning was, because there's been conversation about lack of performance. If something happens along the line, you can dismiss one or the other, keeping one. But if the contract, if it's written properly, that's where I had an issue, or I guess my question about how do you retain one without having to let both of them go if something were to happen, obviously, God forbid, but if that were to happen, how do you keep one So, because one might be the best in their field tied to someone that might not be the best in their field because of the numbers that are coming through, but obviously what you're looking for is the best in the best, if you can get that.
I'd be
So-
happy to speak to that, if
Okay.
Mayor, if I may. And so in the Progressive Design Build contract, there will be it's a off-ramp clause, essentially would, should that team meet some internal crossroads that either they aren't comfortable with or the city's not comfortable with, the city would have the ability to use this off-ramp, which would allow you to retain the engineer to complete the design
Okay.
without the contractor.
And again, I asked Mark if I could review the RFQ, because it is an RFQ/RFI. It's the way that I understand it, it can be put together, which is unique, instead of having to choose one or the other. So I'll be interested to seeing that when it's fabricated, so.
Yes, and Counselor, staff heard that as well, and we've been thinking about how to keep council involved as well as the design review committee in developing that RFQ and through that process.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Mayor, these acronyms, I know we have an online audience. Just, will you go ahead and
Sure.
define what your RFQ and RFI, what those stand for? Thanks.
Yes, Counselor. So RFQ would be a request for qualifications. That's standard for selecting an engineering firm under our design bid build. Is what we're contemplating under the CMGC project. That would be an RFQ where you would select qualifications, no price, and contractor qualifications, no price, an engineer. And under the progressive design build, we're contemplating a two-step process where you would limit to the top 3 teams under a request for qualifications. Then you would go to a request for proposal, which would be where you would ask for a price component and a detail of how the team would deliver the project.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions for Nate? Hearing none, thank you, Nate. Appreciate it. I would stand for a motion to close our public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council discussion?
And again, just for Mayor, for Darrell's acronyms, GMP is a guaranteed maximum price. So the CMGC is a general contractor, construction manager with a guaranteed maximum price. So that was that other method being discussed.
Thank you. Okay, what's the will of the council? Stand for a motion.
Okay. Mayor Kling, I will make the motion to go with the recommended delivery method, the project packaging and delivering approach for Phase 2 upgrades at the Nampa wastewater treatment plant as proposed to us this evening.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Hogaboom?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Thank you. So how many of you are here for this public hearing? That's why I was looking over here going,
All the engineers, right?
you guys are, thank you for coming. Thank you for your interest. My guess is we're going to have be getting the opportunity to hear from you at a later time. And if you would like to depart at this time, you are more than welcome to do so. You don't have to stay any longer. For those of you, if there's anyone here that was here for the special meeting that's at the end, it is truly at the end. We do have another special council meeting, which has to do with the storage units. That's at the very end of this meeting, probably won't take place until the earliest 8:30, possibly 9. So but there is no comment period at that meeting, so if you're here for that meeting, you're welcome to stay or leave. So that would be at your discretion. So, moving on to the next public hearing. This is action item number 6.2 on the agenda. This is a variance to zoning ordinance section 10-8-6 requiring a 6,000 square foot minimum lot size within an RS, single-family residential 6,000 square foot zoning district for properties located at 1217 11th Avenue South. This is the north one half of Lot 9, Block 59, Waterhouse Edition, and at 1223 11th Avenue South. I think I already said that. Okay. So the applicant proposes adjusting the lot line between 1217 and 1223 11th Avenue South by approximately 16 feet to the southwest, thereby increasing the lot size for 1217 to approximately 5,098 square feet, which is still a substandard lot size, but would allow space for construction of a dwelling or placement of a double-wide manufactured home on the foundation. The adjustment would decrease the lot size of 1223 11th Avenue South to approximately 5,879 square feet, which is a substandard lot size, but would still accommodate the existing dwelling. This is for Jose Sanchez, and is our applicant here this evening? As you come forward, thank you for stating your name and your address and letting us know beyond what we've already shared.
Absolutely. My name is
Thank
Augustine
you.
Sanchez. My dad is Jose Sanchez, but I'll be speaking in behalf. But yeah, basically he owns both properties right there, and what we're trying to do is put some use to the 1217th Avenue one. It's been kind of just hanging out for the last 6 years, 7 years, and all there is chickens roaming around, right? So it would create two properties that are below the 6,000 recommended and the 6,000 square feet, but it's mainly that either double wide home that would be placed there or the stick-built home. It would be mainly for me because I'd have a family and need to move in there as soon as possible if we can get this done. We did talk to the neighbors around there, around the property and stuff, and they seemed like they weren't opposed to anything. I mean, they've known us for many years, so this is just one of the requirements we needed to do in order to kind of go forth on the decision that's made. But I don't know if you guys would have any questions for me or what I need to do in order to kind of proceed with everything that's necessary.
Thank you. So just so you know our process, we'll see if the council has any questions for you.
Absolutely.
If they do not, then we're going to have a staff report. And after the staff report, we will open up a public hearing. And then we'll give you the opportunity to come back and close with comments. And so if we have any additional comments, then we'll ask you at that time. But thank you for going through the process and talking to your neighbors. Good for you. So council, do you have any questions?
Yes, Mayor.
Councilwoman Levi.
Augustine, question for you. You're requesting a variance, and it says here in our notes, according to Section 1024-1, the council is empowered to grant variances in order to prevent or to lessen such practical difficulties and unnecessary physical hardships inconsistent with the objects of zoning. So could you tell me what your hardship is?
Well, the main hardship is that last year I unfortunately had to sell my home and either sell it or lose it to the bank. I lost my job and everything, so I've been having to move into an apartment, but it's very hard to live in an apartment with 2 young kids.
And I can appreciate that, but to go further, is there a physical hardship on the layout of the existing property?
Yes. Well, the property that needs the variance on, I didn't bring a picture of it, but it's only about 20 feet wide and 110 feet long. So in order to put anything there, it need to have a variance towards the other property, which would be the 1223 11th Avenue South one, because that one's the one that has a bit more property to it. So making the 1217 wider with that variance would allow us to either put a double wide mobile home, manufactured home there, or have some sort of structure built. But that's the main reason why it's necessary.
Thank you.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
So in looking at this image, I was going to ask staff this, but since it's up, there's 2 properties. The red outlined one is one, pardon me?
So the one that you see the bigger home structure on the corner lot, so that's that one right there. That's the 1223 Avenue one.
Okay.
The lines that shows the red square around it, that's the variance that's needed. And the property that's the 1217 is the one with the one right next to it, of course.
So the area defined with the red line would be added to the property to the right?
Correct. So that would be...
Okay. So you'd be able to make those 2, and they both have street access then?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. That's all I needed.
Okay, are there any additional questions for our applicant? Augustine, thank you so much. We'll have you back for further questions
you. I
before we
appreciate it.
close. Thank you. Staff?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Christy Watkins, planner with the City of Nampa. In regards to this variance request, a decision on both of these properties is required from you tonight. The following is the staff analysis of the current application and potential findings of fact that can be used by you to justify the approval or denial of this variance request. As stated, the lot line will be adjusted to create 2 substandard lot size where now there is only 1. City Council has previously granted a variance for this property, finding that the size, shape, and location of the lot constituted a legal basis for variance findings. The variance approved in 2014 allowed for construction of a dwelling on a substandard lot with reduced setbacks. However, the variance has expired because no action was taken within the 6 months after the approval was given. The applicant would now like to construct a site-built dwelling that more closely meets city standards, or in place a double-wide manufactured home on a foundation, which is also more closely complies with city standards. As such, being unable to construct a more compliant dwelling on the parcel could potentially be seen as a hardship for the owner, or that the site has unique site circumstances that existed before they purchased the property years ago. To construct a home on this subject property, a reasonable approach is to seek a variance to Nampa City Code 1086, which requires a 6,000 square foot minimum lot size in the RS6 zone. Smaller size properties have existing homes in the immediate area. They have typically been constructed on corner lots where City Code provides allowances for those smaller lots. The site characteristics, that being relatively small lot, not on a corner property, may be considered extraordinary site circumstances which do not apply generally to the other properties within the district. Enforcement of the code in this case could be assumed to deprive the applicant of privileges enjoyed by other owners in this district, namely construction of a dwelling. The proposed use is consistent with the land uses in the area, more so than the single-wide mobile home that was there previously but has since been removed. Approval of this variance is unlikely to be considered granting a special privilege inconsistent with this area. Construction of a new single-family structure shall comply with the current building and fire codes. New structures must comply with required setbacks as well. The proximity to the other buildings is consistent with the other lots in the immediate area. Police and fire departments already service this area. Staff finds no conditions that would create a detriment to public health, safety, or be injurious to others in the area. The granting of this variance will bring 1217 closer to compliance with current city ordinances, and while it does create a substandard lot at 1223, it will have little effect on that property. The granting of this variance, backing up. Should council vote to approve the variance permit, the following conditions of approval are based on city department comments that were submitted. 1, comply with other applicable agency requirements, meaning to obtain all necessary building permits required for construction before starting any work, as proposed in the building department memo. And 2, no access shall be created from or to 11th Avenue South for 1217. The property will be accessed from the alley side so that those driveways are not too close together. And any other conditions that you see fit to impose at this time. Other agency comments that were received indicated that they either had no comment or no concerns with this proposal. No other comments were received prior to this hearing. And with that, I thank you and I will stand for any questions.
Councilman Haverfield.
So Christy, maybe I'm misinterpreted then. I think this will work, maybe not. I ran out of battery. So the area outlined in red would be added to the area immediately to the right of it?
Yes.
And did I hear you say that access to, what is the road directly below that to the right?
Right here?
Yeah.
That's 11th Avenue South.
Did I hear you say that access will not be allowed?
Yes, Councilman Haverfield, that is correct. Engineering has indicated that access will not be allowed onto 11th Avenue South because that would put the two driveways too close together. So access will be allowed through the alleyway to the rear of the property at
So it'd
1270.
have to
Can
be a
you
rear.
point, could you
okay,
point to that, please?
So the alley is back here,
Right.
so the access to this property would be here.
But it does it come in and then drop down a little bit?
Yeah, it'll have kind of an L shape
Okay.
here, but there'll be enough room to pull a car in back there.
So I assume then that the, oh, there it is. So this portion will be 5 feet off of the building line? Is that where that would be located?
Yes, ultimately, with the record of survey and the lot line adjustment, it should meet the setbacks for the existing building. And we will take a look at that when it is submitted.
So since it's one property owner, it can just be a lot line adjustment? It doesn't have to be I don't know what it would be called, where they would be a purchase agreement where they would buy that portion. It would just be simply a lot line adjustment then for them. And then what is the frontage width then on 11th?
That I don't know.
Mayor, Councilman Haverfield, so from this property line here, that would be typically 2 city lots total. So from this point down to the property line here, that would be 100 feet. I don't have a specific on frontage what the split between those two would be, but it would be compliant with the zoning ordinance.
And then the portion that's then accessible off the alley is 20 feet wide?
Sure.
Well,
I don't know that specifically, the width of the property. Okay, Christian.
Okay.
Yeah. The alley approach would not have we do not have a approach width standard on alleys, so whatever they have there would be acceptable.
I'm just trying to, how they would handle the parking requirement for that home, at least 2 spaces. I guess they could be tandem.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks.
Could I ask, what is the street on the side of that street right there?
13th Avenue South, or 13th Street South.
13th Street. So I have a question about putting we're not talking a mobile type home, we're talking a manufactured home possibly.
Yes,
Is
thank
that
you,
correct?
Mayor. That is
Either a
correct.
stick home or a manufactured home. In my opinion, it would need to be in keeping with the other residents around there to maintain values of other property.
So our code reads that if they do intend to put a manufactured home on the property, have to be a double wide or larger on a foundation. We'll have to meet specific building codes to do that. So it would look very similar to a stick-built home. Would not be a single-wide manufactured home that was there previously. It would have to look and feel and be mounted to a foundation similar to a stick-built home.
Thank you.
Do we, Mayor, Council, even on that home, if I understand, there's still impact fees collected? Is that correct? On the home? No? Okay.
Mayor and Councilman Hogaboam, because there was a previous structure there, they
get the
would
credit.
not pay for impact fees for the new home.
Okay.
Mayor Kling.
Yeah, thank you.
While you're standing there, Daniel, then there's already a meter then, as far as water meter, sewer, for that separate parcel?
I believe so. I don't know that directly, but we would look at that in the building permit process. If there is not, they would pay the applicable fees for that connection, but I would assume there is one there.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, are there any other questions for Daniel before public hearing? Or Christie, I should say. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So this is a public hearing, and we do not have anyone signed up in support of or in opposition to. Is there anyone in the audience tonight that had intended to testify this evening on this issue? Seeing none, this is an opportunity for our applicant to come back and make any final closing comments if so needed. If you'd like to comment on any of the questions or discussion that's taken place.
So going back to the question about the meters and all the necessary things, everything is there. That's why we wanted to ensure that it was there, so it wouldn't be a bigger mess to try to attach it to. But yeah, I mean, natural gas and all that stuff is there, so I don't know if there's any other questions you guys might have for me.
So Mayor, currently, and I realize you can park in tandem, do you have 1 or 2 cars currently that you plan on parking?
Well, there's 2, but I mean, it's 25 foot wide back there, so it's not too hard to get in and out.
Okay, thanks.
Mayor? Yes.
Thank you. Kind of expounding on what the mayor was saying is a concern that I had was the type of home and that it will fit into the surrounding areas. Is that something that you've already looked into? Because it looks like from listening to you, you've kind of moved forward in your head as to what you've been thinking.
Absolutely, and so I looked at both options, either stick-built or a manufactured double wide, just from the fact that we would like it to look like it's the surrounding homes. So it would be a double wide, minimum of 1,100 square feet, so that way it's not too small and look like a mobile home. So yeah, we looked at both sides, but if the option is there, I would preferably do a mobile manufactured home on a foundation, so that way the process is quicker. So, because I do have people lined up on both sides for the concrete work and the zoning and moving the lot lines and everything, but I feel like it would be just a lot faster to just go that route, even though that in the end look very similar.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any additional questions? Okay, thank you so
Thank you.
much. Okay, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council discussion.
Mayor Kling, I'll make the motion to allow the variance as proposed. I believe that it's consistent with what we've allowed in the past and is actually making one buildable lot better than what it was before that's already metered. So I make that motion to approve it.
With recommended.
With conditions.
I'm sorry. I'm pulling a SCOG.
Yeah.
With recommended conditions of approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Excuse me. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Pugglebum?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes. And if Bruce is listening online?
I doubt he is.
Okay, item number 6.3 on the agenda is an action item, and this is the vacation of a 10-foot by 70-foot long portion of Lone Star Road right-of-way located on the west side of the property addressed as 561 Lone Star Road. And congratulations, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you. This parcel is located in an RS, single-family residential, 6,000 square foot minimum lot site on the south side of Lone Star Road. The applicant states that they're requesting a vacation of right-of-way in order to align the property lines after dedicating 15 feet of Lone Star right-of-way to the city of Nampa on the east side of the subject property for Mitchell Page. Is the applicant here? Hi, that's right, that's you. Come on up. And thank you for going ahead and stating your name and address again. And
Mitch Page, 2005 West Dumas Drive.
tell us what you want to do besides everything we read.
I bought the property, half of the property, about 7 or 8 years ago. The part where the shop is, I came in and you guys gave me a special exception to put a shop on the property without a single-family dwelling. I planned on eventually building a house there. Since then, I bought the second half of the property, and now I live a mile down the road from here, and I want to build a new house here. That's it.
Okay.
So the property lines were not aligned. When we went in there and the architect laid the house on the property, and it's a pretty small lot, and it's oddly shaped like that. So we wanted to move it over to make it fit on the property better, and it's a foot off of what would have been the 20-foot setback for the front line. It was like sitting at 19 feet. I could have chopped a porch or something like that. When I was looking at the GIS map online, I saw the 25-foot right-of-way off of the crown of the road, and then the second line, it's hard to see up there where I have that 15 feet, that's actually 40 feet back. The original piece of property was a 25-foot setback, which is the top line off the crown of the road, but when you guys gave me the special exception to build the shop, the city took an additional 25 feet. Because they said they might have expanded the road at one time or something like that. So it was 50 foot, which doesn't align with anything down along Lone Star there. So then my builder and I came up with wanting to get another piece of property, Mark Young, Hawkeye Builders, and giving the city the other piece to align the property, which is the city, the right-of-way for the most of Lone Star. That's basically it.
Okay. Are there any questions from council? So Mitch, we will have you come back. So we'll listen to staff report. We don't have anyone signed up for public hearing, but we'll have you come back.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. Norm?
Again, you can see the drawing there. The piece on the west side of his frontage is the area that he's seeking vacation of, the 10 feet of the westerly 7 feet of that right-of-way. And the easterly portion, which is crosshatched there, has been dedicated actually by him for the right-of-way. So what happens here is that it just straightens out that right-of-way. And that's what he's asking to do in order for him to have a straight property line out front that he can adjust or construct his future building to that line in a manner that will be consistent. And it's just kind of a tidying up and a realignment that makes sense, I believe. The existing zoning is RS6, so he could in fact build a single-family dwelling there. And surrounding zoning is compatible with what he's proposing as well. And he's the only property owner adjacent to this area, so there's no dedication or none of the right-of-way that is being asked to be vacated is being given back to anyone else but him. And so that's pretty much the background regarding this. There have been no objections raised by utility companies or other property owners. And so staff recommendation is to you that the vacation be allowed, no conditions attached.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Norm? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into public hearing, and there is no one signed up to testify other than Mitch Page in support of, no one in opposition to. Is there anyone here that had intended to testify this evening? Okay, seeing none, the applicant has the opportunity to come back if you have anything more to say. And council, do you have any questions for the applicant before we close?
I have a question.
For staff or him?
Either one. I was wondering what the requirements are for lawn for a house that's built there. Is a lawn required?
Oh, we're doing it all there. So first, we're gonna do the front, there's no sidewalk there.
Yeah.
The church next door has a nice sidewalk. The box culvert and over the canal had been done not too long ago. So we're also gonna do the new sidewalk, curb, and gutter up front and clean all that up, and it's gonna be beautiful. It's all gonna be lawn in the front there with asphalt coming to the house and the shop. It's gonna be awesome.
Sounds like a wonderful improvement.
I'm just curious, what size square footage of home are you wanting?
It's not here too big.
Too big. You're willing to build too big though, right? Yeah, okay.
We're around 2,100 square feet, 2,400 square feet. If we did a bonus room upstairs, it's too big. It's only the two of us. I don't want it that big. I want it 1,500 square feet. But the grandkids and the children, she said, no way. We have to build the space for them.
Wait to listen. Okay.
We got a little upstairs on there with some additional bedrooms for the kids and the grandkids.
Mayor Kling, you plan on attaching the dwelling to the shop or separate?
No, separate.
You got the room to do that then? You've got the room to be able to create a separation between the two?
Oh, yeah, I don't have the plans here. I wish I would have brought them for you. But there is separation between the shop and the house. It sets on the property nice.
Yeah. Grandkids, so are you going to put a nice fence along the drain line there?
We've already talked to the ditch master and all that stuff as far as where to locate the fence and the right of way and everything like that. We're at least gonna come from where the house sets over to the Ditch Riders Road and all the way down to the back of the shop. That'll all be fenced in there.
Good.
Thanks.
Just curiosity, what do you do at your shop? What kind of business do you run?
Work on hot rods. It's no business. It's just my personal shop.
Okay.
My cars are in there. So right now I'm a mile away from the house, which isn't that bad either. But we won't have two properties. We'll just have one property, one tax bill, one year. I've paid irrigation here for 8 years. I've never even used it. So just trying to combine things up.
And the wife can find you easily, so, yeah.
comment.
Council, do you have any
No, that's
further
just
questions for the applicant?
For staff, impact fee on this, since there wasn't a previous dwelling unit, there would be impact fees on this new unit, correct?
Oh.
No, sorry.
I finally got to the point with the increases coming up July 1st. That's why we decided to move forward on this here a few months
yeah.
ago. And it took a little while to get
Yeah.
to this point. And it was just this properly realignment set us back a
Yeah,
little
you're
bit. But
being
trying to
smart.
move forward on it.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you for answering the questions. It's really getting to know one of our citizens.
Oh, it's good.
So, yes, it is good. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So if there are no other questions for the applicant or staff, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then I'm going to defer to, unless there is discussion, I'm going to defer to Councilwoman Levi.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to move to approve case VAC-00035-2019 for Mitchell Page, and there are no conditions of approval.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Hoagland,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Brunner,
Yes.
Yes.
Congratulations. Have fun building.
Yeah.
Thank you. Our last public hearing for this evening is action item 6.4, and this is a variance to zoning ordinance 1016-15C and 1033-04A. One, requiring a 20-foot setback from the front property line. The applicant has requested a reduction to 10 feet for the setback from the front of the property line located at 520 Caldwell Boulevard and the western portion of 504 Caldwell Boulevard, and this is within a community business zoning district. And this is to allow construction of a 9,960 square foot temperature-controlled self-storage facility associated with the 621 square foot office. And this is for Phase 3 of big storage facility. The applicant states that they're requesting the variance in order to allow for a unified appearance and landscaping buffer with the existing facility at 504 and 498 Caldwell Boulevard, as well as alleviating the development difficulties presented by the variation to the property lines fronting the north side of Caldwell Boulevard. This is for Aaron Lafkey of Lafkey Properties. Is the applicant here? Thank you. Go ahead and come forward and state your name and address and share with us further detail about what you're doing.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Aaron Lafkey. My office is located at 504 Caldwell Boulevard. We are simply seeking an additional variance. One was already granted for the original facility. This is just a continuation and wrapping up of this project. We have a unique circumstance with the property lines there where Caldwell Boulevard exists in a straight line, but the property lines, for an unknown reason to me, jog, creating an unusual circumstance not shared by my neighbors. We are seeking to build an office, a new office with storefront look, commercial building appearance, parallel to the existing buildings that are there, and an additional commercial building that would be interior heated space for storage on the rest of the lot.
So is that at the bottom right there where we see, could somebody with a pointer point to the exact, so that's where you're going to put your office, is right here, where he was pointing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. A little more engaging than its current location.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there, council, do we have any questions for the applicant before we get started with staff? Okay, Aaron, I don't think we have any, but we'll have you back. Rodney.
Mayor and City Council, Rodney Ashby, Principal Planner for the city. I'd like to just kind of, you can't see this too well, so I'm hoping to kind of give you a sense of what's happening here. This property here, the property line basically jogs in about 10 feet at, I think it's right about that point, and then goes a good distance here, and then comes back into the center of Caldwell Boulevard. So essentially, the variance in the past was granted because of that situation. And then because we have, you'll see in your staff report there that our conditions still require landscaping along Caldwell Boulevard. So even with the jog or the variance back 10 feet, you can see that they've already also included some landscaping right out in front of Caldwell Boulevard, of their existing facilities here. And then I don't know if the applicant made that real clear, but the building that is being constructed here is actually, there's going to be an office building, and then also in their concept plans, they have a indoor accessed facility, so for mini storage that's accessed from interior walls out in the front. And so it does look like basically looks similar to an office building. I've got a site plan that I'll show you, and then also a little closer up of the office or the indoor storage facility. Thank you. So you can see this is Caldwell Boulevard right in the bottom of the screen. This is the indoor accessed office or indoor mini storage facility, and then the regular outdoor facilities in the back that you really probably won't be able to see too well from Caldwell Boulevard. I also like to highlight, the next is a little closer. So you can see those interior walls there and hallways that will be accessed, and then their office facility over here, which crosses the property line into 504 Caldwell Boulevard. I'd also like to highlight that this is in the BC zone, and so it does not require a conditional use permit or any conditions that go beyond just the typical building of the property, and except that it also goes to the Design Review Committee for their consideration, and I believe that's on June, let's see here. Yeah, June 10th, it's scheduled to go before the Building and Site Design Standards Committee for their consideration. So now, just backing up a little bit, variance in this situation, a variance can be granted by the City Council if they choose to find that in Section 1024(2) of our code, there are conclusions of law that should be found, and I'll just go through those really quickly. Number one, literal interpretation and enforcement of the regulations would result in practical difficulty or unnecessary physical hardship inconsistent with the objectives of the zoning ordinance. Number two, there are extraordinary site characteristics applicable to the property involved or to the intended use of the property which do not apply generally to other properties classified in the same zoning district. Number three, literal interpretation and enforcement of the regulation would deprive the applicant of privileges enjoyed by the owners of other properties classified in the same zoning district. Number four, the granting of the variance will not constitute a grant of special privilege inconsistent with the limitations on other properties classified in the same zoning district. And five, the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, or materially injurious to properties or improvements in the vicinity. I've spoken about the landscaping, that basically it's going to follow what has been approved to the east of the property, to the southeast. It will still have the landscaping that is typically required of properties along Caldwell Boulevard. And staff found that each of those conclusions or findings in 1024-2 that there is basis for justification of this variance. It would be inconsistent to allow one property owner to the east, regardless of whether it's a property owner, the same property owner of this property or another one, to have that variance for the same reasons that they are applying for this variance today. It does not seem to be injurious to other property owners or inconsistent with the district that it's in. So we didn't receive any significant input back from the public or any neighbors or anything. We did receive, though, a letter in the packet that is from the Idaho Transportation Department, which states that basically it inferred that they opposed the project, but that they said they would withdraw their opposition to the application once the 2 curb cuts are removed as identified in a permit that they would have to get from ITD for this project, or that they did get, I should say. So as soon as those curb cuts are removed, the access is limited, then they would withdraw their opposition to the project. So council may find that without a variance, the property owner would be penalized because of site characteristics beyond their control. Finally, city council may find that the variance is not in conflict with the public interest because it will allow development that is consistent with the area. And with that, I have included the recommended conditions of approval in your packet. And primarily, it's just the Idaho Transportation Department's request that they eliminate those 2 curb cuts. And I would stand for questions.
Are there any questions? I just have a quick one. In the drawing for the new building, the new building does not set out any further than the existing, is that correct?
You mean the office building?
The office building that will be constructed. I just was looking on here, and it's hard to tell, but and it may be just because of the lines, it looks like the new office building that's being constructed is like right at that, right there.
You can see that there?
Yes, right
Yes.
there.
That is in line with the storage facility to the east.
Okay, fully in line, okay. Okay. Does anyone else have a question? Okay. Thank you, Rodney. So this is a public hearing, and we do not have anyone signed up other than the applicant himself in support of and no one opposing this. Is there anyone that is not signed up that would like to speak? Mr. Hubert, it looks like you're coming forward. I am. And we'll let you, as usual, share your name and your address, and then let us know if you're supporting or opposing.
Mayor and council, my name is Hubert Osborne. I reside at 4199 East Switzer Way. In general, I have no objections to the office building, and I noticed that the staff said the office building would pass design review, the design review committee. And if this is a place I'm thinking of, the design review committee could certainly do a better job than they did on the storage facility to the east. My wife never fails to comment on what an ugly building that is. Thank you.
Thank you, Hubert. Is there anyone else that had intended to speak on this particular issue? Okay, this is an opportunity for the applicant to come back and to wrap up and offer any closing comments or anything you'd like to speak to.
Sure. Can you guys project this?
I think you did it. Good job. Whoop. Yeah, just touch it. There you go.
A lot of data for a little phone. I would just add that while it's not super clear in this imagery, we are compelled to go in front of the design review board next week with color and more detailed drawings of these. I would concur that storage is an issue for the community, and that the industry can do a lot better job in its approach to architectural features. This is
an attempt to do such thing. It looks like any other commercial building. It costs about 3 times as much as storage, the simplest storage buildings to build. So hopefully that will alleviate a little bit of concern. But I would also, I just read this new ordinance when I walked in tonight. This represents less than 10% of our total project, which is either under construction or completed. And I would maybe ask that there might be a carve-out in that ordinance that's coming up for conditioned space. It's a completely different thing than simple self-storage. If that's clear.
Yes, it is.
Any questions?
I guess there are, good job. Thank you.
I guess, Mayor, I'll just ask since Mr. Osborne was up. So as far as, I'm not recalling, tell you the truth, driving by there, and my wife hasn't told me anything. But anyway, just curious, are you in agreement that there needs to be some improvement? And I know this hearing is not regarding the already built storage area, but is there some need for improvement? And I'm putting you on the spot now.
Not at all. It's certainly a topic which I deal with daily. I didn't build the first phase of the storage facility, so I have no attachment to it other than owning it. That one along Caldwell Boulevard was at least landscaped properly. There was some fenestration added to it to add some architectural interest. But this community has a significant issue with how, there are no barriers to entry for storage. In other words, it's like almost uniformly or universally available to build in all zones or for most zones. And it seems as though it doesn't require quite the level of investment that office or other commercial spaces take, so that there are more people interested in doing it. That said, our property taxes have almost tripled in the last 3 years. There are economic barriers to entry that most people who may be considering a project don't know yet. Metal pricing is going up, our taxes have gone up considerably, vacancies are changing rapidly with all the new projects that have come online. That said, it's going to be up to the community to deal with the architectural issues about how this fits in and where they are appropriate. And it's probably a good idea to have that discussion. They can look really nice, but it's a different thing.
Okay.
So,
Thanks.
yeah.
Thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. Yep. Okay, are there any additional questions for staff or Mr. Lafke at this time?
No, I won't ask about impact fees again.
Thank you.
It's a big deal. It goes up 800% on this particular project,
Wow.
July 1, which is, most people who might be considering self-storage maybe don't know that yet. So another economic factor in these projects. So I would ask, though, since this is conditioned space designed a different way, will it be included in the moratorium? We're already in the process with the construction drawings, we're this hearing, the design review hearing.
I guess that's a question I would ask here, because is this,
Legal.
I'm not sure where you are in the process, though. Have you already submitted for your building permit?
No, because we were awaiting the design review
Oh.
approval prior to the permit application. It's really critical that we not proceed into construction drawings to the level at which we would have to then change them if the design review committee asks us to do something different.
That's a very valid question.
So, Mayor, if we could save, I think it'd be best to save the conversation about the moratorium until we were talking about that in particular. What we don't want to do is there's not going to be a public hearing at that time.
Right.
So we don't want to create an opportunity just by mere circumstance for certain members of the public to participate in that conversation. But I'm sure we will talk about a lot of those things during that discussion, and hopefully all those questions will be answered at that time.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Doug. It's why you're here. Thank you. Thank you. Your comments have been appreciated.
He needs to leave his phone now.
Oh.
No. Public record. No.
Okay, so we have just concluded the applicant rebuttal or comments at the close of a public hearing. At this time, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council discussion.
Mayor, council, I make a motion to grant the variance as listed in action item 6.4 under variance 00073-2019 with
Second.
recommended conditions of approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any additional discussion? Roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Pogobon?
Yes.
Okay, that concludes our public hearings, and at this time, we are going to go back into new business. And I just appreciate, and I'm so sorry for those of you that have been waiting a long time. So we do have, well, we'll just dig right in. Item 5.3 on the agenda is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance modifying the term end date for the Nampa Development Corporation Commissioners. And am I missing, is Robin here? I don't see her, so do you have the ordinance? Okay, so we'll just go ahead and read it. This is an amendment, and I might just give some background. The term and the date for our NDC commissioners was actually at a time of year, it made it a little bit difficult, and we had discussion about moving the date. And I think it's probably a good idea that their terms aren't changing, but the date their term ends is changing. And it was just wise in the reappointment process because I believe it was January 1, if I remember correctly.
No, it's June.
Because it was June, thank you. We had the discussion, and yeah, so it just helped in our process. So I'll go ahead and let you, unless Randy, would you like to say anything?
Well, I'll just add, part of the reason for that too was instead of having a new NDC commissioner come in and term starting in June and then have them be right in the middle of a budget process, which they wouldn't have any clue of, at least that gives them now a few months to get up and running with the September proposal would be better. And then those that might not be, as far as council positions onto the NDC, sometimes that puts the council members in an odd position of not knowing if they can be a chairman or a vice chair, not knowing if they're going to be reappointed or not. So.
And in addition to that, I found it awkward when you're appointing a new commissioner in January when you first enter into office because you have no idea if you should be appointing them. So I was asking that we avoid that time frame. So we landed on this suggested time frame for the NDC commissioners. So go ahead and read that ordinance.
An ordinance enacted by the Nampa City Council adjusting the expiration dates of the term and for the terms of the current Board of Commissioners of the Nampa Development Corporation for the purpose of making them consistent with the agency's fiscal year and providing clarification as to how future members of the Board of Commissioners will be appointed to fill vacancies on the board in accordance with the Idaho Code 50-2006, providing an effective date, providing for severability, and repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
And it is requested that we pass this under suspension of rules.
I'll make the motion to pass the ordinance as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Pogobon?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Action number 5.4 is the reappointment of Randy Haverfield and Claudia Dina as commissioners on NDC Nampa Development Corp. And it is my recommendation that we reappoint both of them. It was odd that the terms ended up at the same time, but they won't continue to be at the same time as we move to the future. So I would stand for a motion.
Make a motion to reappoint Randy Haverfield and Claudia Dina as commissioners of the NDC.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Pogobon?
Yes.
Says you want to do it. I want to say thank you for serving. I appreciate your service, and I appreciate the service of Claudia Dina, and I also appreciate the service of Darrell Brunner. Thank you very much for what you do. The next item is an action item, and this is the appointment of our Workforce Development Director. I have asked Deborah Curry to come forward this evening. and express to you the process that we went through as we looked for a workforce development director and the recommendation of our committee. Deborah, thank you.
Mayor, council. We actually had 40 resumes submitted for this position. And after reviewing all the resumes to confirm which ones met minimum requirements and so forth, I chose 5 candidates for interviews. 4 were able to attend the interview, but one was actually headed to Las Vegas to get married. He felt it would be in his best interest, therefore, to pass up the interview and continue to his wedding. Mayor Kling, Councilman Rodriguez, and I were very pleased with the qualifications of those who were selected to meet with us. Although the vast majority of submissions did not qualify, either due to their lack of education or experience that was required in the description, those who did qualify were eminently qualified. I composed a series of questions, which, with some input from Mayor Kling and from Councilman Rodriguez, which we asked of each person interviewed. And while the majority of those applying were not qualified, the ones chosen for the interviews not only met the requirements, but excelled them in several ways. After the final interview, Mayor Kling, Councilman Rodriguez, and I discussed the possibilities and then came to consensus that Bobby Sanchez was the best candidate for this position. Not only did he exceed the requirements of the position, he also possesses a wealth of institutional knowledge, which largely eliminates a learning curve for him. We believe this brings added value to the city and will greatly enhance his efforts as he takes on this new role in the reorganization. This will better prepare the city for the growth it's encountering. I want to thank you for the opportunity, Mayor, and it was a pleasure to serve in the capacity and to help the city in any way I can. Do you have any questions?
Mayor?
Yes.
Deborah, I just want to thank you for the many ways you lend your expertise to the city and helping us make some really great choices. Thank you so much.
Ditto. Good.
And I would agree. Deborah has been a huge asset to us, and I think she's ready to go back to retirement and not have to help us so much. But you have been a tremendous asset, greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate Deborah bringing that forward, and with that, it is my recommendation that we appoint Bobby Sanchez as the Director of Workforce Development.
So move.
Second.
That was my question. Is it an appointment or is it a nomination, or I guess,
It's an appointment.
yeah,
Oh, so we don't need action on it?
right.
No,
do we?
it's a vote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and an appointment requires the vote of at least 4 council members.
So it's a recommendation and then.
I'm making a recommendation to you that we appoint, but then it is an action item that requires your vote.
Okay.
So that would be it's been moved and seconded.
I mean, I know there's not going to be a tie, but you
never
know,
know.
you're recommending that you would still have a vote, right? When you're
I-
making an appointment, I'm just, for future reference. I'm
I don't
just-
think I get to
protocol.
vote. If, I don't believe I break a tie.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Legal.
No.
Doug?
No, the mayor does not get to vote at an appointment, so it's with the approval of council.
Okay.
You're approving your nomination, and then if there was a tie, no, the mayor could not vote.
Okay.
Correct.
On NBC. Just for clarity, my second is that Bobby Sanchez standing physically before us.
Dr. Robert
Yes,
Sanchez.
Dr. Robert Sanchez.
That individual.
Which
Yes.
one?
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call. Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Hogaboom?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
It's a good thing because I couldn't have assisted, so there we go. Bobby, would you like to address the council? And congratulations. Congratulations.
Mayor, thank you, and members of the council, thank you for your trust and confidence and your vote, not just this evening, but as we continue this journey. You know, it's a privilege and honor of serving as the chief of staff for the mayor, and as they look to the horizon, to the next targets or milestones, if you will, with workforce development. It's a team sport, and I certainly can't do it alone. And to have your support and your trust and confidence is going to be critical, so thank you.
Thank you. So this is bittersweet because my chief of staff is moving on to head up our workforce development. I have no question he's going to do an amazing job. And for those that are wondering what we're going to do for chief of staff, I will be making an announcement tomorrow, and we'll send out a press release tomorrow afternoon to answer that question, so it'll be answered tomorrow. So congratulations, Bobby. The next item 5.6 on the agenda is an action item. This is Middleton Road and Lone Star Road intersection improvement for utility waiver comments.
So move.
There is not a motion
Oh, there's not a
necessary
motion
for
on
you.
this one?
The Middleton and Lone Star intersection is a grant project. As part of the grant funding, we have to either get a utility waiver from all the utility companies. We've attempted to do that. We have not received that from 3 of the utility companies, and so we have to provide them the opportunity to comment. We have noticed them that now is their time, tonight is their opportunity to provide comments on the project, and so we just need to give them the opportunity to provide comments. If not, that satisfies the requirement, and away we go. So
we're taking no action on this, Mayor?
There's no action necessary. We just need to provide them opportunity if they're here to comment on the project.
So do we have anyone here with our utilities that was here intending to comment? And I see no one jumping up to
So
come
I'm just
forward.
trying to
Understand it.
explain this process to me, okay?
This is
I'm not-
this is a grant requirement, so as a condition of receiving the grant funds, part of the project, we have to, it's not something we typically do. We have to provide the plans to the utility companies, give them the opportunity to comment. If they have no comments, they can sign the utility waivers and send those in, and then we don't have to hold a hearing. For whatever reason, we have not been able to chase them down to actually sign those documents, so this is a formality of we have to hold an opportunity for them to comment.
Mayor. Mayor, this is not directly related to the utility portion of the project, but the project-specific comments that I've had from some of our community members is when they are putting in the stoplight, it is really confusing where the school zone sign is on the one side of Lone Star, and it still continues into a school zone on the other side. But once you pass through the stop sign, it's hard to mentally remember that you're still in a school zone. Is that clear?
Yep, I understand what you're saying. We will look at that with the plans.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, Council, Daniel, can you just refresh my memory? When is this project slated to be completed?
This would be construction next year.
Next year with the signal at that intersection. Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions? Daniel, does this fulfill your intended
That's all we needed.
intent? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And my apologies that we had it down as an action item. That is in the event that we needed to take action. So 5.7 is somewhat the same. It is not necessarily an action item, but we could choose to. This is discussion of disposal of city property, paying it forward. 5.8 is actually a resolution for disposal of property for Fleet Department. Typically, the disposal of property is on the consent agenda. The reason I brought this forward as a discussion item is that when I was at the reuse meeting recently, a team of us spoke there, and one of the individuals with the reuse committee had suggested that when we are in the midst of our build on our wastewater treatment facility, that we actually consider saving the parts that we are pulling out, the old parts, and donate them for possible use in a smaller city or for parts for older facilities. It also, in hearing that, I was reminded of the tremendous benefit our fire engines and even our compressor was to the city of Horseshoe Bend, which seems like something that isn't that important when I work with the cities and visit with them across the state of Idaho, we have a number of small cities here and across the state that have no additional funds whatsoever. They are so tight financially. And so I wanted to suggest that possibly when we are, especially with fleet, disposing of certain properties, that we actually give opportunity through either AIC to other cities to see if they have need of our equipment. And they could purchase it at the price that we have identified, or if they needed it and could not afford it, that they actually could write us a letter and ask for consideration of donation to their community. Because it's like the fire engines. Being able to give these two communities a fire engine is massive to them. And so I was just thinking, how could we continue as a larger city in the state of Idaho, help support some of our small communities that don't have any resources? So that was my intent in putting this on there, just to ask the council their thoughts on that, and if they would suggest a process, or if they would support us doing that.
Mayor?
Yes.
A comment that I would make, and Doug from Fleet has really hammered this in my head. So for instance, when I'm looking at this list of vehicles and the years of them, I'm always thinking about, well, depending on what year it is and if you can find replacement parts, if there's any value to it. So I think there would be some kind of limitation of what we could pay forward or what we'd want to maybe make accessible to these other communities, because if we're getting rid of it because we can't find replacement parts, they're not going to be able to do the same.
But it would be at their discretion if they chose to, because for some communities, just having a vehicle, right, would be of great value to them, to the length of time
I
it worked.
understand that, but from what I remember, and Doug, please correct me if I'm wrong, is when it comes down to like a safety thing, whether it's a windshield or a door handle or something of that nature, seatbelt, et cetera.
We would need to dispose that.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, our fleet management model is a just-in-time model. We get rid of them just in time. In fact, just to be in full disclosure, one of the fire engines we donated to council lost an air compressor on the way up. So we kind of handed them a $2,000 bill. It was the bill we avoided, but because that vehicle was worn out when we got rid of it, one of the risks they would take in a donation is potentially an expensive repair when we graciously give them a vehicle. Just to use your words earlier, Mayor, good stewards make wise decisions. I don't consider myself wise, but I do consider myself a good steward. I personally feel that donations aren't necessarily the primary mode of disposal. Just for some quick information, in fiscal year 18, we generated $145,000 in disposals through auction. Of those 50 assets, 2 were donated. One was donated to Babe Ruth, and one was donated to the Idaho Center. In fiscal year 16, we have 60 assets in queue for disposal, of which 8 have been disposed of already and generated $40,000. Just, for discussion, I think that the needs in Nampa, again, from my own perspective, probably trump the needs of other communities. It's just my personal opinion, but obviously the decision is yours.
So my recommendation is that we give the option to the cities, first option, at the noted price, if they wanted to. And then if there were, and maybe we could say, because I don't remember the number, was it like 27,000 or is in the upper 20,000s, the total list of the disposal of fleet on that?
For this particular motion, yes, this is one of many to come.
Right.
Like I said, there are 60 assets in queue for fiscal year 19 for disposal.
Okay, so Mayor, clarification, Doug. So I just want to make sure where you're standing here. So you would recommend not, with full disclosure, offering these to smaller communities, or yes, you would?
Mayor and Council.
I'm putting you on a spot, too.
Yes, I would. My position would be not to recommend donation.
Not to recommend.
Because when you get rid of them,
not to sell them at this price, or just donate?
It would be my privilege to discuss a potential donation with a potential donatee, I guess, and go down the list of vehicles that we would consider, and I could hash out what potential problems may arise. But in general, when we get rid of a vehicle, our fleet model, it's into the line for them.
Okay. So, and I realize even with full disclosure and what you think, parts or whatever, I mean, it's kind of a guessing game to a certain extent anyway, for even with your expertise, I would think.
Exactly. And we really do push our vehicles to the end of life.
Okay. Thanks.
So really,
Mayor,
go ahead.
I do like the idea of like, for instance, what we did with the fire truck. That was a very large item, and I liked exploring that option, but I tend to agree with, just because what Doug has really hammered in my head about the vehicles and the safety and not finding replacement parts.
Yeah, and once again, Mayor and Council, we do have circumstances where we do donate, and those are pretty special. Like I said, to Babe Ruth Baseball, we donated a mule to them last year to help maintain their grounds. Things like that are beneficial.
How are we making that decision, though? Is it coming before council to, it's coming for, so you're identifying a vehicle, but if a city came to you to say, hey, are you disposing, I mean, what is that process?
That's exactly what happens. City will, in fact, the police chief of Idaho City contacted me a couple weeks ago and asked if we had any four-wheel drive patrol vehicles we were disposing of, and unfortunately, we do not. But I would look through our inventory of vehicles that are in queue for disposal. I would select ones that may meet their needs, and then if that is the case where we would donate it, then we would draft a letter of donation that would present to council. It would be voted on, yes or no, and we'd move forward from there. But I guess I'm the first line of defense when it comes to a request that comes directly to me, is I look to see what is in queue for disposal, and I'm very honest with them that certain vehicles just are not worth their time. And usually it's a K-9 police car.
So Mayor, if I may, and Doug, $26,600 for this batch of disposal. So there's always buyers out there for these?
Absolutely. Typically, when we sell a vehicle at auction, the buyer is seeking out that type of vehicle versus one that we're pushing on to them. So a lot of times people want a project or a hobby, or they're going to convert it to a hot rod or something like that, or use it for a gardening business or whatever.
So there's not a problem moving them, in other words?
No.
At least at this price?
And that's just an estimated value. The value can be more or less than that sometimes, depending on the season. We try to target certain disposals for certain times of year to get the most ROI out of them.
So do the auctioneer, is there always a minimum?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I have yet to
Just
have
curious.
one not sell, though.
Sure.
So it sounds like actually, this is strictly discussion. If a city wants to reach out because they have need of vehicles, they could certainly reach out. We could consider it, and it would come if there was the appropriate vehicle. So the mechanism is already there, is what I think I'm hearing.
And that mechanism is used on a somewhat regular basis. That it's not uncommon to have a city approach myself or somebody else and ask if we have vehicles for donation.
Perfect.
Mayor, one last question, if I might. Thank you, Doug. When these vehicles are sold, because they're obviously coming from different departments, where do the proceeds go?
It depends. If it's a vehicle that's purchased through general gov funds, that money goes back to the general fund. If it's purchased from an enterprise or special revenue, it goes back to that specific account.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. So with that discussion, I think we can just move on from item number 5.7 as we completed discussion, if that works for council. Are we good with that?
Yeah,
And then we move, go ahead.
If I understand correctly, the estimated value, Doug, did you come up with these prices here? The value?
Yeah, Mayor and Council,
Okay.
those are estimates that I've come up through. I have several tools for estimating various equipment and vehicle costs.
Gotcha. So, and if I hear the mayor correctly, it's more like giving cities first right of refusal to purchase at sort of the listed price. And if they can't afford that, then to do the request, as you're mentioning, is already occurring from time to time of a community asking for consideration.
Correct.
And we always approve that when there's going to be a
Donation.
and then it's going to be a donation.
Correct.
Yeah.
That letter of donation I usually draft it if it's from Fleet, and it will come before the council for approval.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Okay. So we'll move on to action item 5.8, and this is an action item. This is to approve the resolution for disposal of surplus property for the Fleet Department.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Hogaboom?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Item 5.9 on the agenda is an action item to authorize the Mayor and Public Works Director to sign the amended task order for professional services between the City of Nampa and Keller Associates for the elevated tank replacement study in the amount of $499,405, time and materials not to exceed.
Mayor, Council, as you're aware, the elevated tank along I-84 and 11th Avenue is reached the time that it needs to be replaced. Keller and Associates has done the work for us to do the preliminary engineering report and the evaluations of where it is appropriate to replace that tank. The council selected to tear down the existing tank and replace it at that same location with a ground level tank. The task order in front of you is for the design work for the tank now, the final design for the tank, the replacement of well 8 on that site, as well as the booster station that will facilitate both facilitate water from that tank going to our upper zone and the lower zone at the appropriate pressures. Would stand for any questions.
Are there any? It looks like there are none. Okay. So this is an action item. Is there a motion?
Mayor Kling, Daniel, while you're still there, I'm still just grappling with the cost associated with just design only. Is this per your determination, a fair and reasonable fee?
Yes, engineering has reviewed the task order and does recommend approval. The full design or the full construction estimate for the tank, booster stations, and the well improvements are close to $6 million or just over $6 million total. And so looking at that, we are within our...
So the value?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know, is the ground capable of supporting the weight as it's proposed, or are there going to have to be some additional pilings or anything put underground to support that tank?
Have we looked at the geotech, or that's part of this scope? That's part of this scope, is the geotechnical investigation to take care of
quite a bit of weight.
What that foundation is. Keller and Associates did the design for us on the south tank. Similar, well, this one's half the size of the one there, so confident that we can deal with any of those types of issues.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I'll stand for a motion.
So moved, as proposed.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Brunner?
Man, yes, a lot of money. Okay.
Levi?
Yes.
Vogelbone?
Yes.
Everfield?
Yes.
Item 510 has been removed from the agenda as per our prior, at the beginning of the meeting. Number 511 is an action item. This is to authorize the addition of AECOM to the 2018-19 Request for Qualifications First Choice Hiring Roster, and to authorize the Mayor and Public Works Director to sign miscellaneous professional services term agreement, and to authorize the Mayor and Public Works Director to sign a task order scope of work with AECOM for benefit cost ratio determination for State Highway 45 realignment in the amount of $53,890, time and material not to exceed for the street division. Daniel, would you like to speak to us on this?
Mayor, Council, as you may remember, we've had discussions regarding the relocation of State Highway 45 along 12th Avenue and relocating that outside of the downtown core. We've had a number of discussions regarding the traffic in and around the library block that is contributed by this state highway coming into that area. One of the things that we look at when we're looking at a realignment of a state highway, we obviously have to go through the state's process, and one of the things to start that is looking at a cost-benefit analysis to say what are the benefits, what are the costs, and what makes sense for that. The AECOM is the successor of URS, who did the original alternatives analysis for the city back in 2011. And so springboarding off of that knowledge that they already have. We are requesting to add them to our first choice roster and execute this agreement so that they can do that cost benefit analysis, which is the first step going towards that potential relocation.
Thank you for bringing it forth. I think it's timely, yeah. Are there any questions for Daniel?
Yeah, $250 an hour for project manager, that's just the going rate for project managers? That's just,
That's the
what he
billable.
makes.
yeah.
Wow.
I didn't hear that. Was it a good one?
Wake up.
Says that's what Daniel makes. That's what-
Well, I was just dozing for a minute.
Oh, I'm just, yeah.
So the process for looking at these, we look at what their billable hours are and what their multiplier is. They are well within the standard billable hours for this type of work.
Gotcha, all right, just eye-opening.
Got to pay for the best. I'll make the motion to,
Thank you.
are these in two parts or just the one?
Actually,
There are
I,
three.
1, 2, and 3.
There's
So the
three
as
requests.
stated, the entire, yeah.
I'll make a
Three.
motion to authorize all three items as listed.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Just to remind me, because I wasn't around, I mean, I was around Napa, but not here on the council. So 2011, you said you're opening this up as this company as because they already have done research on this?
So URS was the name of the company, which is the successor to Morrison Knudsen. So it's just a number of iterations of companies coming together. So URS is now AECom, and so we have to add them to our list.
So we just have
Contract
to add them. Did we utilize them back in
Yes,
2011?
we utilized URS, who is now AECom, back in
And
2000.
they made the recommendation?
Yes.
That we currently have now?
Mhm.
Okay, but we just don't have to choose them, we're just adding them.
Right, we're adding them to the list and executing a task order with them.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Levi,
Yes.
Hogaboom,
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
And Daniel, you can stay here because you're the next one. This last, well, we have another one too, but item 512 on the agenda is an action item to award the bid to Paul Construction and authorize the mayor to sign a contract for the South Sugar Street pedestrian activated crosswalk and North Nampa Bike and Pedestrians Improvement Project.
So move.
Do you want, you know what, I will share only for perception's sake. We'll let him share just a moment.
Oh, can you do that after a second?
It hasn't been seconded yet, so it has been moved. Would someone like to second?
You want me to pull my motion until he,
We can do
Speaks.
second and then discussion.
I'll second it for the discussion
It's
purposes.
been moved and seconded. Discussion. Daniel?
So this is our Sugar Street pedestrian activated crosswalk and North Nampa bike and pedestrian improvements. This is a VRT grant that we received. We've gone to the bidding process, and Paul Construction was the low bidder and would recommend approval.
Okay, thank you. The reason I had him go ahead and share it was because from citizen response, even though the council has read and fully understands this, sometimes our citizens don't get the full picture as to why we would be doing it, so it gives you the opportunity to share it. So you did it briefly, thank you so much. So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
let me just express, and this is another philosophical thing with me, but, these are important projects, but we seem to have our, kind of be over the barrel to a certain extent with VRT, that we have to approve, that we have to approve certain things from them for these grants to happen. And it's just a philosophical thing that I struggle with. So anyway,
You know what?
I understand.
The good news is, I don't think our VRT bill went up this year.
Really?
I think it's the same as last year, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So that's good news.
So we're talking, Mayor, we're talking about a $601,000 project. The city's match or portion of it's only 20%, so we're getting a $600,000 investment for $118,000.
It's a great return on investment. I'm not questioning that.
Sure.
I'm just,
That's what I was looking for, that,
Yeah.
I'm sorry I stumbled a little bit at first. Otherwise, yeah, I think it's a great project.
Awesome. Roll call.
Pogabum?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Brunner?
yes.
Our last action item is 513 on the agenda, and this is the action item to approve the resolution directing staff to proceed with the contracting Phase 2 of the Nampa wastewater treatment plant improvements and approving the project packaging and project delivery contracting methods. So this is what we just walked through with the public hearing.
So do we don't need a presentation then, do we?
No, I don't think so.
I'll make a motion then.
I'll second it.
Okay, and we don't need to read the resolution because we've got it. Okay, is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Pogabum?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Okay. So unfinished business. Item 7.1 on the agenda is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for LID 163, and it is requested that we pass this under suspension of rules.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Nampa, Idaho to create Local Improvement District 163 for Nampa, Idaho for city utility extensions and connections, providing for levying of assessments upon property benefited by such improvements, and for the basis of making said assessments, setting forth the properties to be included in said district, and providing and making the assessment roll.
Make a motion to pass the previously read ordinance under suspension of rules.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Pogabum?
Yes.
Item 7.2 on the agenda is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for annexation and zoning to RD two-family residential for Mattingly Creek subdivision at 2008 West Orchard Avenue. This is a .35 acre portion of the, and I'll let you read, because do you have all the legal in there? I won't repeat it all. And this is attached lots on 3.5 acres for a total of 22 dwelling units on 3.5 acres, or 6.29 dwelling units per gross acre. And this is for Pontifex Capital LLC, represented by Bob Taunton, Taunton Group LLC. And it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
An ordinance determining that certain lands commonly known as 2008 West Orchard Avenue, comprising approximately 3.5 acres more or less, lay contiguous to the city limits of the city of Nampa, county of Canyon, state of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the city of Nampa, Idaho, as part of the RD zone, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be part of the city of Nampa, Canyon County, Idaho, directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the city of Nampa, Idaho, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict therewith, providing for an effective date, and directing the clerk of the city of Nampa to file a certified copy of the ordinance and map of the area to be annexed with the county, Canyon County, state of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63215.
Make a motion to pass the ordinance as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Pogabum?
Yes.
Pardon me, that was wrong.
That's
Brunner?
He didn't sound like me? Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Pogabum?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
So Section 8 on the agenda are pending ordinances that will be coming forth in the near future. We do have an executive session at this time, which is number 9, and
Actually,
I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061C to acquire an interest in real property which is not owned by a public agency.
So moved.
second for discussion. Are we doing the,
No, we have to finish this meeting and then step.
after the executive session? So we'll reconvene out, okay, just, all right.
So-
Do we have a few minutes to use the restroom?
Yes, we
Okay,
do.
thank
So,
you.
but
No,
I would
there-
stand for a motion to adjourn.
Yes, I seconded the motion.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, and roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Pogabum?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
So that said, for those here, as we are going to take probably a 5-minute break. We are adjourning into executive session. We don't anticipate to be long. We will come back out, and then we will adjourn from our regular city council meeting. That meeting is being followed by a special council meeting that will take place as soon as we're done. And my hope is that we're not gone longer than, we'll be back out here by 9:30. How many of you are waiting for the special council meeting? A few of you are, and I so apologize. So we will be back and move quickly into that meeting, so you have a few minutes to take a break. So my apologies. We should have brought snacks for all of you.